The day has finally arrived and the Switch 2 has officially launched all over the world. And right alongside it, we got a brand new Mario Kart. And ever since mine got delivered, I have had a hard time putting it down. But a lot of people are skeptical about if they should upgrade. So today I'm giving my early impressions of the Switch 2 and Mario Kart to see if it's really that good. Out of the box, it comes with the standard stuff, your Joy-Cons, the Switch console itself, the dock and HDMI and all of the other accessories you would need to make it work. And this thing is pretty big. For the last few years, I've been playing my Switch OLED religiously, and I play in handheld a lot because I just find it convenient. But even though the screen isn't an OLED like this, I still really enjoy it. It is a pretty noticeable difference, and for some people, I can understand how that would be a deal breaker, but I still personally think this looks really good. The frame rate is high, the colors pop, and no matter what I'm playing, it still looks incredible. So if you're upgrading from the OLED, this isn't going to be that big of a difference, but if you had the original model Switch, this is a massive upgrade. But we gotta get into the console itself, and if you've played the Switch, it's pretty much the same. The UI looks a lot cleaner, but it's almost exactly what it was on the Switch 1, which is a good thing and a bad thing. Historically, Nintendo is known for massive changes. The DS to the 3DS introduced 3D, and though I didn't really use it, it was a nice thing to have. And the GameCube to the Wii was a night and day difference.
How do I even play this?
It's called motion control, so you wave it around so you can move.
Excuse me? No. What did I tell you would happen if you brought witchcraft into this house? I told you!
But with the jump from the Switch to the Switch 2, this is just a better version of the same console. There are new things like mouse controls and game chat, which I'm sure are going to be big things. But as of right now, that's pretty much it. And this may be a hot take, but I am totally okay with that. When the Switch first came out, it was a revolution. We got the best of both worlds from their handheld and home console, which made it so I didn't have to buy two devices to get all of the games I wanted to play. And at that moment, I knew Nintendo would never go back. I would love a new handheld-only Nintendo console similar to the DS or 3DS, because I'm not trying to give myself scoliosis carrying this absolute behemoth around. So I can see why Nintendo quote-unquote played it safe and decided to give us a better version of what already worked so well. But with this being a new console generation, there were some things I thought they were going to add that they didn't, and I am still confused as to why. And the biggest thing is something I was asking for years for on the Switch, which was themes. The 3DS had a bunch of themes that changed the music and backgrounds of your console to give it a more personal touch. And even though there are rumors this is coming in the future, I feel like they should have had that at launch. Currently, the only options are dark mode and flashbang white, because apparently they decided LASIK eye surgery should be a new feature. But all of the standard options and the new things that were added during the life of the Switch are still there. There's Bluetooth headphones, you can make Miis, and all of that works really well. And a minor new change that I like is that you can now swap the function of the A and B button really easily. I can't be the only person who has a mini panic attack whenever I have to hit the A button because it's in a different spot on every single controller. But considering that the only thing I wanted with a new Nintendo console was a more powerful Switch, I can say with certainty that this is everything I wanted and more. Sure, there are some minor things like the lack of themes that I really wish they added, but I'm glad Nintendo decided to stick with what was working and make a better console. But the thing that I was the most excited for was the Nintendo Switch Online GameCube expansion. In order to access this, you have to have the NSO plus Expansion Pass bundle, which I do, and as soon as Nintendo started adding retro games to NSO, I have been waiting for this exact moment. And it is everything I wanted and more. Currently, the only games available are Soul Calibur 2, F-Zero GX, and The Legend of Zelda: The Wind Waker. And even though I wish there were more games available, this is a pretty solid starting lineup. The game I was most excited for, oddly enough, was Soul Calibur 2. I grew up playing this and I don't currently own a physical copy, so I figured why not just play it on here. And of course, F-Zero GX is an incredible racing game. Of recent, Nintendo has started pushing F-Zero again with this and F-Zero 99. And I'm glad because I have been waiting for a new F-Zero game for such a long time. And even though I personally can play this on my GameCube whenever I want, a lot of people don't have access to it. So putting this on NSO was a great way to give people all over the world the chance to play one of the best F-Zero games of all time. And of course, the last game is the one that everybody's been talking about since the announcement with Wind Waker. I'll be honest, I would have rather had the Wind Waker HD. In my opinion, both Wind Waker HD and Twilight Princess HD are the best way to experience experience both of those games, but giving access to Wind Waker to this many people is an incredible idea. Not only is it one of the most unique Zelda games, it's one of my personal favorites. And I'm glad off the rip they decided to put one of their most popular games on the service. And with so many more great games to come, I feel like NSO is one of the best deals in gaming right now. I still think that Nintendo should bring back the Virtual Console because you can have both, but there are so many games on the service that I wouldn't have played otherwise. And one of my first recommendations for anybody who buys a Switch or a Switch 2 is to get NSO because there are so many legendary titles on this service that I absolutely adore playing. And even though I like to collect games, for the average person, this is a great deal.
I guess I don't need this anymore.
So far, I think the Switch 2 is really solid, and I'm really glad I got this day one. Prior to launch, there was so much hate and misinformation being spread about the console, but as someone who has played it themselves, I can tell you that this is a solid upgrade. If money's tight, I don't think you need to upgrade right now, but if you're someone like me who saved for it and can afford it right now, I feel like it's a good upgrade, especially if you consider that one of the launch titles is Mario Kart World. As soon as this was announced, I saw the initial trailer and knew I had to have it, and then I stopped watching any videos that had information on the subject. I wanted to go in blind and have a raw, authentic reaction to everything that this game had to offer, and I think that was the best decision I could have possibly made. Currently, I have played every single game mode multiple times, and I am enjoying every single moment. The biggest new thing was the open world, and I really didn't know how to feel about it originally. I have never been playing a Mario Kart and thought,
I just wish there was more traffic. Come on, move it, Grandma!
The coolest thing about this is that when you're in the home menu, you can hit one button and immediately start driving. And it is so satisfying to just zoom in and be able to start playing. And you don't have to stay in any one location. You can drive directly off the first cliff you see, and that is exactly what I did. Mario Kart World is exactly what it sounds like, a full Mario Kart world that you get to explore. The new locations are unique and have a bunch of hidden secrets available for you to find. In all of the points of interest, there are these question mark blocks that you can drive over, which are pretty cool to find. Some of them are out in the open, and others require you to explore a little bit, but either way, I don't think I had a bad time hunting them down, and considering that I have a lot more to find, this is a great idea. It encourages you to drive off the standard track and look around these environments. And considering I was going to do that anyway, it's nice to have a reward for doing so. Also, while exploring, you'll find these P buttons. When you drive over them, a little challenge starts, and some of them are incredibly easy and others are painfully difficult. The first few I tried were really easy, and I got incredibly disappointed because I thought they were all going to be that way. But there were some that I had to replay 5 or 10 times just to get right, requiring near perfect timing in order to hop from rail to rail. And considering that this is the closest thing that we've gotten to a mission mode since Mario Kart DS, I am in love with this idea, and I've been going and finding every single one I can because these challenges are fun and unique. And if you mess up or complete it and want to do it again, all you have to do is press down on the left stick and you can retry the same challenge you just did. One of my fears was that after I completed a challenge, I wouldn't be able to access it anymore. But not only is it easy to redo and you can play it as many times as you want, the button turns gray if you complete the challenge so you know which ones you have and have not done yet. And with other collectibles scattered around the world like coins, peach medallions, and nabbits that you're allowed to run over with the car, I'm gonna keep coming back to this game mode time and time again because it is endlessly fun. One thing I was slightly worried about is that changing characters was going to be a hassle, but luckily all you have to do is hit start and you can switch your characters out with the press of a button. Quickly swapping from one character or cart to another takes less than 10 seconds. And it's the little details like that that really make this nice. When you're driving around the map, you'll find these lunch bags that change your character's outfits. And though it's just cosmetic, I think it's pretty cool. Ever since the first trailer drop, one of the biggest things that people were excited about was the roster of playable characters. And though as of right now, you're not able to play as any non-Nintendo characters like you were in Mario Kart 8, they went down the roster of Mario characters and started pulling out some wild choices. The most notable of which being Cow. And even though I'm a Crabman more myself, I get it. Not every character has a costume, and in my opinion, that is really disappointing, because that makes the food stops for some characters entirely pointless. This could change over time, because I have a feeling they're going to treat this game similar how they did to Mario Kart Tour and just keep adding over time, but I would have loved some costumes for the more obscure characters. The big guys like Mario, Luigi, and Peach each have like 4 or 5 costumes, and I get that. But if they did something like give the cow a cape, I would have been ecstatic. But all of that aside, the two things I was the most excited for were the character selection and the open world, and both of them met met, if not exceeded, my expectations. But the game mode that I think most people, including myself, are going to be playing the most is the Grand Prix. And now that I've completed all of the races, I can say with certainty that this is a great Mario Kart experience. Unlike the Mario Kart games of the past, you're no longer doing a standard race around the track 3 times. You start off with a typical race on a racetrack, and then the second race begins with you driving to the next track. And though I was skeptical about how this would work, they ended up crafting the routes from track to track with delicate care. Going from one track to another rarely feels boring. There are some sections that are a little bit too linear, but for the most part, there's a good variety in the tracks and routes between them that helps break up the monotony of doing the same racetrack over and over again. The Mario Kart that most resembles this is Mario Kart 8. And though they got rid of the underwater driving, you can drive over the top of it and fly in certain segments of the map. You no longer have the option to customize your karts and gliders, and I think that was a good decision because for the most part, that seemed like it was a good idea, but I ended up picking the same kart every time I played. And if I'm going to pick the same kart every time, then why even have the option to begin with? But luckily, the option to fly is still there, because there are certain segments that require you to glide from one section to the other, similar to Mario Kart 7 and 8, and it feels just as good as it did in those games. But all of the Grand Prix are at baseline really good, but they definitely save the best for last, with the Special Cup being one of my favorite racetracks in Mario Kart history. Specifically, the new Rainbow Road, which is arguably the best in the series, and in my opinion is the most visually impressive thing Nintendo has ever made. Everything from the track design to the visuals completely blew me away. And I've gone back a few times and played it since, and every time I am just left amazed. So needless to say, the Grand Prix is just as good, if not better than ever. And at first, the only thing I wanted was more options for the Grand Prix. But then I tried out the Knockout Tour mode, and I realized why there were only a certain amount of cups. The Knockout Tour is essentially a new version of the Grand Prix, but in a similar fashion to a game like Fall Guys, you have to be one of the first people to cross the finish line or you're out. You'll seamlessly race from one track to another with no break, and you have to make sure you're in the top 4 to finish or else you are not going to win. When you reach the finish line of one of the tracks, it'll tell you how many players are able to progress. And if you don't make it by the cutoff, then you lose. And I think this was a great way to add a fun new game mode to Mario Kart that keeps the core formula the same, but adds a good level of competition. I haven't taken it online yet because honestly, I'm scared of getting violated. But over the next few weeks, I'm sure I'm gonna play this a disgusting amount. But all of the new features in Mario Kart World feel incredible. Whether you're grinding on rails or riding on a wall, it all feels so good. It combines the fluidity of Mario Kart 8 and 8 Deluxe with the innovation of Mario Kart Wii, and every part about this feels like a next generation Mario Kart experience. And considering I've been waiting for a new Mario Kart for over 10 years, this met, if not exceeded, all of my expectations in every single category. Granted, I need to put a lot more time into it to give my full honest opinion, but as of right now with my earliest impressions, this is a top Mario Kart for sure. Of course, there are more launch titles that I really haven't gotten around to as much yet, but I have played Pokemon Scarlet, Breath of the Wild, and Tears of the Kingdom on the console, but I can say with certainty that all of these games deserve a second chance on the Switch too. I have put a disgusting amount of hours into all 3 of these games, and going in, I knew there were going to be some changes and upgrades for the Switch 2, but I did not expect them to look and feel this good. Not only do they look better, they all run so much smoother than they did on the Switch 1, so much so that I'm going to do a full playthrough of all of these games because I am so interested to see how well they run. And based on what I've seen with the older titles getting an upgrade and the new games looking this good, I am so excited for games like Donkey Kong Bonanza, Metroid Prime 4, and Pokemon Legends ZA, and if they manage to feel a fraction as good as these games do, I know they're going to be some of the best Nintendo titles that we have ever gotten.
Dude, what are you doing out here? I heard online the Switch was dead, so I was gonna bury it.
There is zero chance you thought this is what that meant.